Well, you guys, I'm so excited again that you are here. We love just being able to give you tools for parenting. It's a big job, and I know everyone in here can probably use just great new advice on how to talk so your kids will listen, and listen so your kids will talk. So Kellie has been at the school for a while now. She's both a parent at the school, and she has 6 kids and now 5 grandkids. So she is a wealth of information. She also was the very first preschool teacher that we had at our school. We started with 1 class, and she was that first classroom teacher. And so we were super excited about having Kellie on staff. I had the privilege of teaching one of Kellie's daughters in first grade a long time ago, so that's really special to me too. And I realized I didn't introduce myself, but my name is Rachel Urban, and I'm the division head here at the preschool, and I've gotten the opportunity to teach here. I've taught 6th grade and first grade, and I've taught in our preschool as well, so worn lots of different hats at our school, and I have 2 kids at the school as well. So without further ado, though, we will introduce Kellie Anderson. Yay! I joked with Kellie before she came up here. I was like, Kellie, we need to have like confetti or like have you run through like a piece of paper, but we decided to tone it down for you just a little bit. We'll keep it toned down for you.
I'm trying to keep it professional.
Well, we'll just add lots of fun.
My primary language. My primary language is fun. Thank you so much. I know my daughter, whom Rachel taught in first grade, is now 22. So, and she's not even my oldest. No, we don't get older. We get better. Hi, I'm so glad you guys came. I usually do this when we've done this in the past as like a seminar, and it's like a 45-minute breakout session. And then last year they changed it to half an hour, I think. And so I'm used to just like going through this really quickly. But I'm just going to take my time today because we have a little bit more time. It'll also, am I standing in the wrong place? Is it just me that, okay. Okay, thank you, sorry. Anyway, but hopefully there will be some time for Q&A at the end if you guys have any questions, or if you have something that just kind of pops up in the middle of this, that's fine to do that. So I've been here, this is our 26th year here at Bear Creek as a parent, and then I guess this is our 12th year as preschool. So I started teaching preschool when my youngest went into kindergarten, and she's a junior now. So my last one, all 6 kids of mine have gone here. So we go way, way, way back. So it's an amazing place, as you already know. I wanted to just share my cup. Last week was my birthday, and Mrs. Files gave me this cup that says, "Today's goal, keep the tiny humans alive." And I can relate to that, not just as a teacher, but I remember when I had my younger 4, I had 4 under 5, no twins. So this was actually a goal most of my days. My husband would come home and I'd be like, okay, they're alive, I've done my job. I don't have a shower, we're having cereal for dinner, but we're all standing. So most of us are standing. So anyway, but what I love about this actually, and that's the humorous side of it, obviously, but I like the human part. And I think sometimes we forget that our kids are humans, which is twofold. Number one, they're made in the image of God, and we have that in common because we're human. And we also sin. We also make bad choices, all of us do. And so we have that in common with our kids. And I just like to kind of frame it that way to start out, that they're not just, little creatures that don't know anything yet. I mean, they kind of are, but they're humans, and they deserve to be treated and spoken to with respect and dignity as the human, as the person that they are. And you'll kind of find that's her overarching theme through this book. Oh, I forgot to bring the book. We have it in our library if you're interested in checking it out. Adele Faber is the gal who co-wrote this, and she came to the Paramount Theater, gosh, probably 25 or 30 years ago, and I got to go and see her, and she was incredible. And it changed the way I parented, it changed the way I taught, just to have these little pieces of information that, just kind of different ways of phrasing things or looking at them really, really helped me a lot. So there's a lot here, and I just chose the 4 chapters that I really resonated with are, I don't know where to point this to get it to work. Oh, there we go. So these were the 4 that now I did it too much, sorry, that I really resonated with. The first one is helping children deal with their feelings. I can't remember the other ones. Encouraging autonomy, engaging cooperation, and praise. I do remember. Anyway, so those were the 4 chapters. Oh, and did you guys get handouts? Okay, good. Oh, thank you. Thank you. This is the book. We have copies of it in the library if you want to check it out. And like I said, there are some things in there that I don't really agree with, but isn't that parenting? There's many different ways to parent. I used to say there's many different ways to parent as there are parents, but I think there are actually as many different ways to parent as there are kids, parent-child relationships, because they're all different. I don't know if you've noticed that, but something works with one, and then you have another one, and you're like, oh my gosh, nothing that worked with this one works with this one. And when I had 4 of them still at home, we've only got 3 at home now, but when we had my 4 last ones at home, have you guys done Mrs. Peeler's learning styles? The quadrant where she has, the 4 I had 1 in each quadrant. It's like, I just give up. I'm just going to pray a lot, which is really what you should be doing. Ultimately, they are God's, and we just do the best we can while we have them, and hopefully point them to Him, because He's not going to mess them up. Okay, so the first chapter that I like to talk about is how to help kids with their feelings. They need to have them accepted and respected. The other thing I love about this book is it's full of cartoons. So, come on. Sorry, there might be a couple of pauses because there we go. Okay, so a little boy comes up. Eric punched me, so, Daddy, do you hear me? I can hear you, go on. So I hit him back, then he hit me again. Are you listening? I'm listening to every word. No, you're not. I can listen and watch the game at the same time, go on. Oh, forget it. So it might be the phone these days. It might be Facebook or whatever it is. I know what I kind of get sucked into. I was at a stoplight yesterday actually it was in the Microsoft area, funnily enough, but that's no diss on Microsoft. But watching the people cross in the crosswalk in front of me, I think there was one person that was not looking down. And I just thought, wow, that's dangerous in traffic, but it's also good to be fully engaged. So instead of half listening, sorry, I don't know if this is just slow or, okay. Listen with full attention. Eric punched me, so Daddy, do you hear me? All he does is turn around and look at his kid. He doesn't even say anything. So I hit him back, and then he hit me again even harder. He's mean. You know what? I'm going to play with Danny from now on. He doesn't go around punching people. Sometimes, well, it probably says that here. Oh, are you moving it forward? Sorry. It can be discouraging to try to get through to someone who only gives lip service to listening. It's much easier to tell your troubles to a parent who is really listening. He doesn't even have to say anything. Often a sympathetic silence is all a child needs. Sometimes they just kind of leaving those words hanging in the air, they hear them and they process them and they think of their own solutions, which is a really valuable skill to have. All right. Somebody stole my new red pencil. Are you sure you didn't lose it? This is not necessarily the best way to start a conversation or to engage in it because it's kind of blaming right away. I didn't. It was on my desk when I went to the bathroom. Well, what do you expect if you leave your things lying around? You've had things stolen before, you know. This isn't the first time. I always tell you, keep your valuables in your desk. The trouble with you is you never listen. Oh, leave me alone. Don't be fresh. Okay. Not really listening and blaming and accusing. It's hard to talk to somebody when that's happening. So instead of questions and advice, if you can call this advice, are you fast forwarding it, Pete? No, I just was wondering if you were, because I'm not having much luck with this. Because there's a little thing that's supposed to come up right here. I should grab my, so we're basically listening. I think I have another, okay, sorry, it's my fault. Acknowledge with a word. Somebody stole my new red pencil. Oh? I left it on my desk when I went to the bathroom and somebody took it. That's the third time I've had my pencil ripped off. Ah, I know. From now on, when I leave the room, I'm going to hide my pencils in my desk. I see. It's hard for a child to think clearly or constructively when someone is questioning, blaming, or advising her. There's a lot of help to be had from a simple oh, or I see. Words like these, coupled with a caring attitude, are invitations to a child to explore her own thoughts and feelings and possibly come up with her own solutions. So yeah, we're trying basically to work ourselves out of a job to help them to be able to have all these skills themselves when they go out into the big bad world someday. And key right here is coupled with a caring attitude. Empathy is really, really key in when you're dealing with your kids and talking about their feelings. And sometimes it's hard to drum up genuine empathy when you've told them 12 times not to run down the sidewalk, because concrete is hard, and then they do it and they wipe out and they skin their knee and they're crying, and you're just, all you want to do is, I told you if you'd have listened to me, that wouldn't have happened. But if you instead, you can see things from their point of view, they'll learn more from that experience, having done it and realized, oh, mom always tells me the truth, or dad always tells me the truth. But if you can really just think about where they are and they just wiped out and they're feeling sad and they need someone to honestly empathize with them and just say, man, that really hurts. And then at a later date or a later time when they're not in the emotion of the moment, when they can hear you more, the next time you go outside on that same sidewalk or something like that. Do you remember last time when you ran too fast? What happened? You weren't very happy about that. Just kind of a little reminder. You're not telling them what to do. You're just giving them information, and that's another thing that they talk about in here. Did I already say just take one or two of these things and try them? There's a lot of overwhelming, it can be overwhelming with all the different things that are suggested in here. So if you want to just take a couple and put a sticky note on your fridge or on your mirror or something. So there are lots of things actually that I help kids deal with where they're in this emotional fight or flight amygdala part of their brain, kind of bringing them back to the frontal cortex where they can actually think about this. Because if you try to address anything logically, well, logic with preschoolers usually doesn't work anyway, but especially when they're in that moment. So there are things where counting to 10, that's an executive function activity, and it will take you from the to this. And there's also part of it is just we have to be the grown-up in the situation. And not that you're not being a grown-up by doing that, but just kind of troubleshooting and finding some ways that help you not to do that. And maybe just stopping, taking a second, and just letting them be in the moment. And sitting with them. Instead of saying anything, don't say anything at all, and then work up to, that must have really hurt, or whatever. I don't know, does that help at all? Or I don't. It might work with one kid and not with another, so sorry. You just never know. You just have to keep, isn't that what parenting is all about? You just keep trying and find out what works, and then it works for a week and a half, and then it doesn't anymore, and you gotta try again. Having kids is really good for your relationship with the Lord. It keeps you on your knees a lot. And wait till you have teenagers. You think your knees are sore now. All right, instead of denying the feeling, my turtle is dead. He was alive this morning. Now, don't get so upset, honey. And then she starts to cry. Don't cry, it's only a turtle. Ah, stop it, I'll buy you another turtle. I don't want another one. Well, now you're being unreasonable. Okay, instead of doing that, give the feeling a name. My turtle is dead. He was alive this morning. Oh no, what a shock. He was my friend. To lose a friend can hurt. I taught him to do tricks. That's my favorite line in this whole thing. I want to see what tricks our turtle did. You two had fun together. I fed him every day. You really cared about that turtle. So a lot of times this is not our first response because we think that by going into it and talking about it, we're going to reinforce it and make it worse. But actually it does the opposite, bless you. It does the opposite and they feel heard. So parents don't usually give this kind of response because they fear that by giving a name to the feeling, they'll make it worse. Just the opposite is true. The child who hears the words for what he's experiencing is deeply comforted. Someone has acknowledged his inner experience. And this is true. I used to lead a MOPS group or a MOPS table, and I was over at my girlfriend's house playing. So we had 8 kids under, 6 together between the two of us. And her oldest was, bless you, her oldest was building a tower, and it fell down. And I said, oh, that looks frustrating, or you look frustrated or something. And she was about ready to explode. I said, boy, that looks really frustrating. And she goes, yeah. And she just started building it up again. And Stacy looked at me and said, what did you just do? Because normally she'd have been all over the place. I said, well, I kind of learned this thing at a seminar. And and I just tried to kind of say, this is what I'm seeing. Now, you're not going to tell your kid how he or she is feeling because sometimes you don't know. But you can describe things to them. I can tell by your face. Your face looks mad to me. Or when you're doing this, it looks like you're really upset about something. Or kind of, again, helping them to be in touch with themselves because ultimately they're the ones that are going to have to deal with themselves. We're not going to be there forever. All right. I want my toasty crunchies. We don't have any, dear. I want them. I just told you there aren't any in the house. Have some Nifty Krispies. No. Well, now you're acting like a baby. Instead of explanation and logic, when has that ever worked for anybody? Give a child his wishes and fantasy. This is a fun one, and we talk about this at our parent program. It's okay to have fun with your kids and to do some things that you wouldn't normally think were good parenting things to do, but just it's okay to have some fun. I want my toasty crunchies. I wish I had some in the house for you. I want them. I hear how much you want them. I wish I had them now. I wish I had the magic power to make a giant box appear. Well, maybe I'll have some Nifty Crunchies. Okay. When this actually works, my husband does this and it works for me too. I hear how badly you want a new car. I wish I could make that happen for you. When children want something they can't have, adults usually respond with logical explanations as to why they can't have it. Often the harder we explain, the harder they protest. Sometimes just having someone understand how much you want something makes reality easier to bear. And you can do this with anything. I was playing with my granddaughter a couple weeks ago, and her mom had taken away all of her magic markers for a reason you can imagine. And she was complaining about it and kind of wanted me to get her some magic markers. And I said, wouldn't it just be cool if we if you could order a dump truck full of magic markers and just back it up to your front yard, beep, 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 and dump it into the front. And you could just you could walk in magic markers. You could pick them up. You could use them wherever you wanted. And just that picture, she knew she wasn't going to get the magic markers. She knew, I wasn't going to give them to her and they'd been taken away. But just to have that imagination and just go, yeah, that's really hard. I had a student yesterday, we were in the middle of doing something that was hard, which is writing, practicing letter formation. And halfway through the time, he goes, this is really hard. I said, I know, it really is. That's all I said, and he just kept on going. Just he just needed to be heard, this is really hard for me. So we want to listen quietly and attentively, acknowledge their feelings with a word, give the feeling a name, give the child his wishes and fantasy. All feelings can be accepted. Certain actions must be limited. So this doesn't mean, oh, you're feeling angry, you can slug your brother. We set boundaries, we give consequences for bad behavior, but it's really, it's good to give them good vocabulary, even at a very young age. I remember my son, I don't know, he couldn't have been more than 2. This doesn't have any electrical zapping on it, does it? Should I not tell that story, Lord? But he said something to me, and he said, I was going to do this, but I didn't think it was appropriate. And I said, you're right, it wouldn't have been appropriate. If you asked him what does appropriate mean, he wouldn't have known what it meant, but he used it appropriately. And he had heard it in context enough that you'd be amazed at the words we teach our preschoolers here, and the things that they really can get. And they love big words. They love understanding things like that. So if you can connect them with things that are happening with them, I'm building a tower and it just fell down. Wow, you look really frustrated. And another part of this, well, I think it's later. I get mixed up. So this is the second chapter that I really love, called Engaging Cooperation. What we do is we blame. All right, who did this? Who left this out? Who did this? Name call. You are so irresponsible. I don't think I've ever done that with my kids before because it just feels so yucky, but I know sometimes that happens. It happens. Threaten, if you do that one more time, and that's my threatening voice. If you do that one more time, and sometimes you use their middle name in there too. Lecture, okay, blah, 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 blah. My kids used to kind of make a joke about, they hold up, oh, this is lecture number 37. Here she goes, watch this, Or comparing, your older sister never did that. Don't do any of those things. So instead, describe. How many times do I have to tell you, turn off the light after you use it? Instead of doing that, how about the lights on in the bathroom? Now, the caveat to this is make sure they have the information first, that they know what they're supposed to do, so that they don't kind of try to figure out what it is they're supposed to do by what you're telling them. That was kind of the way it was in my house growing up, not to turn this into a therapy session, but my mom came down. She's got her doctorate in early childhood education also, and I don't have my doctorate, but yeah, anyway, and she was very into positive reinforcement. So she would just wait for us to do something the right way and then reinforce it. And so we just kind of were like trying to figure out what it was we were supposed to do. And she came downstairs one day and she said, "Thank you." I was 16 years old, by the way. "Thank you, whoever put the toilet paper on in the green bathroom did it correctly." My first thought is, I've been doing it wrong for 14 years or whatever. My second thought is, if you really had a way to do it, you've been holding on to that for 16 years. But then also, I went upstairs to see how you do it. And just to me, it would have been simple to say, we want it to go this way because we don't have a cat, or this way because we do have a cat. I don't care how you put it on, as long as it's there when you need it. So, my expectations are even lower. But just when you're describing things, make sure they understand what the expectations are ahead of time. Does that make sense? Oh, sorry. It's hard to do what needs to be done when people are telling you what's wrong with you. It's easier to concentrate on the problem when someone just describes it to you. When grown-ups describe the problem, it gives children a chance to tell themselves what to do. Give information. If I catch you writing on the walls one more time, you're going to get a spanking. There's an awesome threat. Walls aren't for writing on, paper's for writing on. Just kind of giving them information. And again, they need to know what's right and wrong ahead of time. And it's usually more effective to tell them these things when we're not in the moment of this. This is our quote at our house, still to this day. Who drank milk and left the bottle standing out? Instead of that, kids, milk turns sour when it isn't refrigerated. Whenever anything is left out, someone will chime in a perfectly mocking voice of this parent. So-and-so, the milk goes bad if you don't put it in the fridge. My kids have all seen my PowerPoint, so. Information's a lot easier to take than accusation. When children are given information, they can usually figure out for themselves what needs to be done. Yes? Well, I would try something different if giving them information didn't work. Give them new information. So now the new information is, if you do that again, this is going to happen. But also there are some other things that are in here too that maybe you can try, taking away the device that they use to do that, or having a very limited place where we keep that, which is kind of goes against what I believe philosophically. Like, I never put away all my stuff when my kids were little because I wanted them to learn how to show self-control. And now I didn't leave, well, I don't have any $4,000 vases, but if I had, I wouldn't have left those out because kids are kids. But I didn't try to just make this really clean environment for them so they couldn't make bad choices. Like, you can make a lot of bad choices in here, so the goal is to help them be doing the right thing and consciously doing that. I don't know if that really helped. I wouldn't keep saying the same thing over. If it's not working, I wouldn't. Now, Love and Logic has got some key phrases that they repeat over and over again. I tried that once on my teenager, and it didn't go so well. So then you just have to try something else. Because one of their ones is, that's not a problem for me. And so I said, that's not a problem for me. Oh, blah, 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 blah. That's not a problem for me. I mean, for like probably 10 back and forths. That's not, and she just was so exasperated and, stormed out. I don't even remember if it worked, but I tried something different the next time. I just felt like it wasn't good for our relationship. But there are, I would say I wouldn't keep doing the same thing over and over again. And you could also say, when they get a little bit older, the cost to paint the wall is going to come out of your allowance if you do that again. And have some more natural consequences for what just happened. Because it has to hurt them to make the bad choice. So they have to feel the pain of it somehow. Like, this is going to cost me. I'm saving up for a new, hair bow, but Mom's going to take that and you can make up, paint costs whatever they have in their allowance back, just so you know. Maybe a little bit less. Or a little bit more if you want them to work a little bit harder. At what age do they feel empathy? Well, let's see, I'm 57. Well, it's important to teach kids empathy. I don't know. I think some kids have it more naturally than others. I don't know if that's a personality thing or not, but we actually are teaching empathy in P5 right now. Like, that's our character quality for right now. We're describing what empathy is, and we are practicing it, and we're rewarding it when it happens. So empathy's got a couple of components. Number one is knowing what the feelings are. So they've got the vocabulary for that. Recognizing it on somebody else, and then recognizing the distinction, like, this is your feeling, it's not my feeling. So that can be taught for sure. And did that answer your question? Sorry. I don't know that there's necessarily an age. I don't know is the answer.
So cartoon children seem really calm, and there's lots of civil back and forth discussion. The reality sometimes is like, the kids are escalated, so there's either crying or screaming or there's yelling at the sisters. So I feel like, by the time I just de-escalate the conversation to enough to even get any of these techniques or a word in, I feel like I've kind of lost the battle. So I'm just curious, do you just de-escalate first and get them to calm down and go back and have this engagement? Because it just doesn't always go as smoothly.
Right.
Well, let me tell you.
Sometimes it helps just to kind of have these little key phrases on a sticky note somewhere. But taking a step back emotionally is really, really important. It's hard sometimes to not take things personally when your kids do things personally, when they're doing it to get you, because they know that's a button they can push, and just take a step back and go, oh, I'm sorry, that's not going to work this time. Oh, you're gonna do that. You can do that on the floor here, or you can do that in your room. But when you're ready to talk, we can talk. I still think you can be. I wouldn't try to address necessarily the issue at hand in the moment. I think it's harder to do that if they are really emotional. But unless your kid goes from 0 to 900 in a second, there are usually some indicators in there. You know your child best. Okay, this is going this way. Let's take a step back and kind of try this. Let's try this way this time. Say it with a word. I've been asking you kids to get into your pajamas, and all you've been doing is clowning around. You agreed that before you watch TV, you'd be in pajamas. I don't see a sign of anyone doing anything about that. You've probably never had that conversation before. Kids, pajamas. That's just a lot easier. Ours was jams and teeth. When we said jams and teeth, the kids. Now again, the caveat is they need to know what's expected of them. And if it's, 7:30 at night and you say, kids, pajamas, they know exactly what they're supposed to go do. And in theory, they go and do it. You promised before we got a dog that you would feed him every day. Now, this is the third time I've had to remind you this week, and I'm getting sick and tired of it. Mom and I take our turns, and it's not fair that we have the whole burden. I just want to get out my violin for that dad. Really? Billy the dog, children just like hearing lectures, sermons, and long explanations. For them, the shorter the reminder, the better. Again, so that they know what it is. But this is also a very non-emotional thing when you're just saying, pajamas. I mean, you can even say it like this. You can, say it a whole bunch of different ways where they know what it is that they're supposed to do. And like I said, make sure they know what it is that they're supposed to do first. And then talk about your feelings. So this is kind of what you guys were talking about a little bit. You're rude. You always interrupt. Instead of that, I feel frustrated when I start to say something and can't finish. So this isn't licensed to just dump on your kids about all your emotions because they're kids. Like, oh my gosh, every time you do that, it just makes me so sad when you pull out the martyr card or whatever it is. But it's okay for them to know that I get really frustrated when I try to say something and I don't get to finish. That really frustrates me. Stop that, you're a pain in the neck. I don't like having my sleeve pulled. Again, that's giving information, but it's, how are they gonna learn how, number one, to have that vocabulary, but how to express it if they don't learn it from us? Like, we're the ones that are teaching it. So they're entitled to hear our honest feelings. By describing what we feel, we can be genuine without being hurtful. And write a note. This is a fun one. Here's the note. Before you turn this on, think, have I done my homework? Have I practiced? This is how old the book is. Look at the TV. Help, hair's in my drain, give me a pain. Glug, your stopped up sink. The note kind of works like a timer. Oh, timer went off, it's time to, like, you're not the bad guy. Whoa, the timer says it's time to move on to the next thing, This is another way of kind of neutralizing it a little bit. I did this, well, it's probably been a couple of years now. My teenage daughter's laundry baskets had sat with clothes folded in them for about 2 weeks. And it just bugged me. I think it just bugged me because I had folded them. And they were just sitting there, like they need to go somewhere. And I wrote a note on top of it and said, please put me in your drawers. We've been sitting here for 2 weeks, or something like that. They were gone the next day, and they just probably got a little chuckle out of it. Oh yeah, that's right, like this little nudge. But it's not seriously, you can't do that. That's been 2 weeks. It's easy to go into that. But just try some different things. Sometimes nothing we say is as effective as the written word. When my oldest, who's 33 now, was 18 months old, I put her to bed one night at about 7:30. And about 7:35, she came down the hallway and she said, good morning. And I said, oh, honey, you haven't gone to sleep yet. Oh, yes, I have. I said, no, you haven't. Oh, yes, I have. I'm like, I'm still in the same clothes. I'm watching the same program. It's still dark out. You haven't slept yet. She was convinced, and I didn't know how to explain to her that she hadn't slept yet, because what's the concept of time to an 18-month-old? So I stapled a green and red piece of construction paper together. I wrote go on the green side. I wrote stop on the red side, and I put it up on her dresser every night when I put her to bed, put the stop side up. And then when I went to bed, I would turn it to go so she could get up. And I'm sure, knowing her, that she just stared at that stop sign for like hours some nights, just like willing it to turn to go. But that's simple. It's got the color, cues for them to see, but also, as a teacher, it's good to have the words there too. So describe what you see or describe the problem, give information, say it with a word, describe what you feel, write a note, sing a song. We actually had an after-school song we had a morning song too, actually, that, they would come and say, can I go to so-and-so's house? And I'd say, well, let's sing the song together. And we would sing It's after school now, take off your uniform. It's after school now, give me your papers and forms. It's after school now, spend 5 minutes in your zone. Then do your homework, your lunchbox, and put your clothes away. And then it's time to play. So, and the 5 minutes in your zone part was a Fly Lady thing where she divides, she's a gal online, flylady.org, helps you kind of organize your house. And she divides your house into zones. I divided my kids into, my kids' rooms. I did not divide my kids into zones. And they corresponded with the day of the week. So Monday was mirrors, Tuesday was tabletops, Wednesday was wipe, Thursday was trash, Friday was floors. So that spend 5 minutes in your zone, they just had to go wipe off their mirror or, pick stuff off of the floor or, wipe down the countertop that they did. They had to do it in their rooms and in their bathrooms. And then the really cool thing about this is about 5 years later, it worked to my advantage again because they would say, can I go such and such and such? Well, let's sing the song. No, don't sing the song. I got it. I'll go do my stuff. Don't sing the song. So, use it to your advantage. And no emotional hooks. We've kind of talked about that. That I think is the hardest part, is to just take a step back and kind of look at what's happening and being able to just kind of facilitate a calm conversation in the moment. All right, encouraging autonomy. Toddlers and teenagers aren't that different. They're both going through this stage of individuation where they want to do it by themselves, but they can't. How many times do your 2-year-olds say, no, I do it, Mommy. All by my DOS is what my daughter used to say, all by my DOS. Like, okay, well, we have to be somewhere in 20 minutes, and you actually can't tie your shoe in under 30, so this is going to be a problem. So kind of navigating that, and teenagers are the same way. They're going through that, I want to do it all by myself, but I don't have any money, or I don't have a car. They're starting to see the adult things that they're going to be able to do very soon, and it can be really frustrating to not be able to do the things that you really want to do. So sometimes that comes out, the frustration comes out. Like, I just want to be able to do this by myself, and my fingers don't work that way yet. Let children make choices. This will be in every parenting, manual or whatever. It's always a good idea. Are you in the mood for your gray pants or your red pants? Would you like half glass of juice or a whole? We're leaving in 5 minutes. Do you want to go on the slide one more time or on the swing? So you have to be okay with all the answers, with all the things that unless you have kids like mine who are like, you say, do you want to do A or B? And they say C or D. And then you can think about it. I had a mom one time say, every time I give him choices, he always picks a third one, and I say no. And then I got thinking about it, and I think, well, actually, that isn't a bad idea. But then if I go back, I feel like I'm giving in, and so now now he just won't do one of, So I just said, well, just wait a minute. If they say, well, can I do this instead? Say, let me think about that. Because it might be a really good idea, and it's okay with you. Because we don't need to be so rigid that things have to go this way. We can be flexible and model that to them too. So make sure that the choices are okay with you, but like leaving in 5 minutes isn't a negotiable. Yes?
So actually that does bring up the other question where the two choices you give them, like, hey, do you want to brush your teeth or mommy to do it, and it's time to brush your teeth, there is no alternative.
Right.
What do you do in those cases? Because they come up with a third choice, no, I want to play. And you're like, okay, you've already done the 1 minute of play, now it's back to brushing your teeth.
Right. Well, it's time to brush your teeth. I mean, I would just do it for them. It might be kind of hard, but hopefully you're not doing this, pinning them down, doing toothbrushing. But
like, that's what I'm doing. And I also see this and I go, well, they come up with a choice, and if it's a good one, you're right. I'm like, okay.
well, if it is something that's okay with you, like actually your bedtime isn't for 45 minutes, and how much of parenting is arbitrary? Most of it. I mean, not really, but you know what I mean. Like, okay, why did I decide now you have to brush your teeth? It actually could be in 30 minutes. But I would set the timer and say, okay, when the timer rings, it will be time to brush your teeth. Or you could do it anytime up until it rings too. I mean, totally up to you when you brush your teeth, just as long as it's either before this time or when it dings. I think a lot of it is kids don't have control of a lot. And it can be really frustrating sometimes. Now, they shouldn't have control of a lot because they're kids. And if they sense that you're not in control, that can breed a lot of insecurity too. So you want, even if you don't know what you're doing, act like it until you do. But it's also okay to be flexible and to say, you know, that's a really great idea. I hadn't thought about that. It's okay with me. Because your goal is to get her in bed by 7:45 with her teeth brushed. So if that meets your goal still, and that's an okay alternative with you, I would say totally fine. I just wouldn't say no right away. Because then if you go back, then it looks to them like you caved. And if you're playing the slot machines in Vegas and it pays off once, you'll keep playing. So try not to give in. These are all choices that give a child valuable practice in making decisions. It must be very hard to be an adult who's forced to make decisions about career, lifestyle, mate, without having had a good deal of experience in exercising their own judgment. So we are helping them practice. And a part of that too is letting them sit in the consequences of bad choices. Don't go in there and rescue them. We're kind of well, I don't know if you guys are. I don't know what generation you guys are, but I know for me, like, we know so much more now, and so we're so safety conscious, and we wouldn't dream of like letting our kids go out all day Saturday and ringing the bell at 6 o'clock for dinner. Like, that just wouldn't happen nowadays. And I forgot why I was saying that. Sorry. Exercising your judgment. Yeah, but letting them sit in, you know, sometimes you don't want them to have you know what the bad consequences can be. But it's really important that they experience them. Obviously, you know, you want to do as much of this as you can when they're young. It will pay when they're older, when the consequences of a bad choice can be much more life-altering. You know, they have keys to a car, they have a boyfriend, they have, you know, whatever. So this is where we are helping them learn how to make good choices. And it's okay to remind them, I do this in class all the time. Remember last time when you didn't get finished, it really frustrated you that you weren't done. So if you get busy right now, you'll probably get done before it's time to switch stations. I just know that really frustrated you last time. Just saying something like that, it's like, oh yeah, that did. And then if they dawdle around, it's like, okay, well, that was your choice. I wouldn't say that was your choice, but I would just let them be in the, oh, I didn't get done. I was like, yeah, I know. Maybe next time. I'm rooting for you. And show respect for a child's struggle. Instead of, here, give the jar to me, sweetheart. Let me do that for you. A jar can be hard to open. Sometimes it helps if you tap the lid with a spoon. Again, we're trying to give them skills, and it's okay if it doesn't work out if they can't do it, but I think it's always important to try. Instead of, what's taking you so long? How about tying shoelaces? It takes a lot of fancy finger work. And remember, I had a student one year who thought that grown-ups had more fingers than kids because we could do more. I mean, it makes perfect sense if you think about it. We can do so much more, but we've also been doing them for 57 years. So just acknowledging the fact that they just started doing this. So you're right, this is really hard to do. When a child's struggle is respected, he gathers courage to see a job through by himself. And then don't ask too many questions. This is me. How did your teacher like your composition? Did you pass the math test? Is anyone coming over after school today to play? Why not? Hi, I'm glad to see you. Sometimes just kind of letting the moment happen. And one of the things that she says is that too many questions can be experienced as an invasion of their private life. They'll talk about what they want to talk about when they want to talk about it. Usually, if you, and some kids if they know that you want information from them, that's something they can not give you, and it kind of pushes a little bit of a button. Just, you don't care if they give you that information or not. Kathy?
Talk about, is this regardless of age? Like, does this start at 3 or 4 questions? Like, do they have that same mindset or same feeling towards it? So, yeah. I can see when they're older, like when they're teenager, like, don't think about business, but.
I still would. And the reason I say that is when they ask a question or when they, have said something and it's just kind of left there, a lot of times that's what they hear instead of our da 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 da. They hear the problem that they posed and can kind of wrestle with some of those ideas themselves. When a kid in class asks me a question, I'll say, "What do you think?" Or "Why did you ask it?" Like I'm more interested. I know the answer, but I'm more interested in why you asked that. So I think we need to give them information. We need to describe things, but I think it's okay. I think less is more sometimes. I do. So I don't know. What specific are you thinking of? Like,
Well, it's not only surviving with this one, but it's like, pick her up from the basement.
what'd you do? Nothing. That's what the newsletters are for, because they don't, they're like, nothing. You did nothing in school today? Nothing? You're going to Bear Creek, you better be doing something. But they usually, and as they get older, like the car time is a really good time for them to talk, because you're not looking right at them. And you're just kind of, and then they'll come up with stuff and that kind of stuff. My kids always wanted to talk right about the time I was ready for bed. It's like, oh, you couldn't have said this at 7 tonight. Nope, we got to wait till 11:30, and now I'm just sitting on your bed, listening. Yeah, you had a question?
I was just going to say, my oldest son does that, where he won't tell me about his day. How was your day? Oh, great, same as yesterday, like every day.
Right.
But he sees his grandparents almost every day. He always tells them. So my mom later will be like, oh yeah, he told me about this, that, and the other. I'm like, he never told me anything, So sometimes it's audience too, and them being ready to listen.
Yep. And when work comes home, you can just comment on it, not even just say, what did you do here? But, wow, look at all those colors you used. Yeah, Mom, we painted with apples because it's Miss A week. Or, that a lot of times that will come with that just kind of they're not feeling like they're being badgered. Yes.
I think the point you're trying to make is to not badger them, but questions in general, like they seem to work for me. Even with my 2.5-year-old, I ask him, hey, did you use fish today? Did you use crayons today? Did you use rice today? And he'll go, rice. And I'll say, what was in the rice? And he'll tell me.
Right.
And that's the end of that conversation. With my daughter, it's what number you hear. And because I love numbers, she'll tell me.
Right.
And then I'll stop right there. But having that interaction with them, it gives me a chance to talk to them very clearly.
Right.
I don't want to give it up. Is that
No, I agree. I think it's the too many part. I mean, certainly you can ask your kids questions. God bless you. My husband's an engineer, and I'm really super fast. And so I'll go, okay, did you get this? Did you do this yet? And and he'll just be standing there and be like, I'm still on the first question. I didn't even hear, I heard 2, and I'm thinking about that one also, but I didn't even hear 3 and 4. So I think that's more the point, is just the barrage of, what'd you do in school today? Who'd you play with on the playground? Because you want to know. There's nothing wrong with your caring heart. I mean, that's fine for you to want to know that. But a lot of times when you let them come to you, you'll get better information. You'll get what they want to share with you too, like what was important to them. Like playing in the sensory bin might not have been the most important part of his day. Like he wants to tell you about something else or something. But the way you phrased it wasn't like, did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? I mean, it was different. So yeah, asking questions of your kids is totally fine.
I was just going to say, after about a year, I negotiated. So he has to tell me something that he wants to tell me. I just say, tell me whatever you want to tell me for the day. And sometimes it's I ate a salad at lunch or something.
Right.
But then it usually goes into other things. And then we negotiated, I get to ask one question. So I ask everyone.
I like that.
we do rose and thorns, so I let them pick, like what was their highlight, what was their low light of your day, just leave it at that.
Yeah, a lot of times we do that too. Something that I used when my kids started getting like elementary school age was scale of 1 to 10. How was today? Oh, let me think about that. Well, this happened here. Oh, I'll give it a 7. Oh, all right. And then a lot of times they will follow up with, and the reason I gave it a 7 was. And then don't rush to answer questions. This is actually more what I was alluding to before. Daddy, where does rain come from? Well, rain is caused by evaporation and condensation of moisture. See what actually happens. This is totally my husband. I told him if he goes first, I'm going to miss this about you, even though I just have the gift of when he's doing it, because he wants to tell me everything he did to fix this problem. And it all needs to be celebrated. And so, and so instead, Daddy, where's rain come from? That's an interesting question. What do you think? Or why do you ask? Well, obviously, why do you ask? But, tell me what's going on in your brain, and then I'll tell it, then I'll say, well, actually, it kind of goes like this, or let's go get a book from the library and read about it, or, because you want to encourage that natural curiosity that they have. But like I said, I'm often more interested in what's going on in their head, not just, I have the answer to the question, but I'm more interested in relationship and helping you figure things out too. When they ask questions, they deserve the chance to explore the answer for themselves first. And then encourage children to use sources outside the home. Dad, my angelfish looks sick. What should I do? I wonder if the pet shop owner has any suggestions. All my friends are allowed to have gum. Can you buy me some gum? Well, let's check with the dentist and see what he thinks about chewing gum. You always run the risk of the dentist saying, gum's totally fine. In fact, it's better than brushing. Do it all the time. You're like, you can either lie to your kid and say, oh no, he said it was terrible, or maybe it is better. I don't know. But we're teaching them, again, to use resources. And I do this in the classroom. Do you think, is there some place in our classroom where you could find the answer to that? Like, we want them to be able to explore different things, and I've got my geometric shape chart on the wall, and Ling Ray's, what is this shape? I was like, go look. I know a place in my room where you can find that information, and then he'll come and want to talk about it. We want our children to know that they're not completely dependent upon us. The world outside the home, the pet shop, the dentist, the school, an older child, library books, can all be called upon to help them with their problems. And I don't even know this is that much of an issue these days, because they just look it up. They don't have to lie in bed at night going, who sang that song? They just look it up. Anyway, when my daughter was in 6th grade, she had pneumonia. 3 of her 4 lobes were affected. Like, she was in the hospital for 5 days, really, really sick. And the first night she was there, she was just so discouraged. Like, she couldn't walk to the bath. She was all hooked up on IVs and everything. She couldn't walk to the bathroom without getting really out of breath. And she's like, Mom, can you just call the nurse? And I said, the nurse is just going to say you need to rest. But could you just call the nurse? I'm like, but this is what the nurse is going to say, honey. Okay, I'll call the nurse. The nurse comes in. You want some ice cream? I'm like, no, it's like midnight. I'm like, no. She's like, and Molly's like, yeah, I want some ice cream. Do you want to watch a movie? She's like, yeah. I'm like, I just thought I was actually going to get some sleep tonight, but apparently not. And so there I am, hand feeding her ice cream because her arms are, and I ended up watching the hamster movie. They saved the world, by the way. She fell asleep after about 5 minutes, but you just can't let that go. So you have to be willing to accept the information that you're getting. And then don't take away hope. Instead of preparing children for disappointment, let them explore and experience. Mom, I'm trying out for the lead in the school play. You think I'll get the part? Look, I don't want you to be disappointed. Why try for the lead when you haven't had any acting experience? Maybe there's a smaller part. How about, so you're going to try out for the lead. That should be an experience. I actually have a funny story about this. This is when Catherine was in your class, Rachel. We did, as a school, we did The Sound of Music. And it was a high school production. We always do a high school production every year. But they needed some of the smaller kids to be Gretel and Brigitte. And so Catherine wanted to be Gretel, and she thought she would be Gretel. They had to have these auditions, and there were, I don't know how many girls auditioned for that. All the little blonde girls in the school auditioned for it, and they all were going to be Gretel. And I was like, there's no way this is happening. But she had to memorize a portion of script. She had to learn a song, and then she had to go into the band room. They didn't let parents come in. She had to go into the band room and do those things in front of 5 people. And she was in 1st grade. And so my husband's the one who got this brilliant idea. He said, we need to celebrate this, not whether or not she gets the part. Because a lot of times that's where we do, yay, you got the part, or yay, you scored the goal. Well, that doesn't always happen What can we reinforce for them of the part that they do have control over? So we had to celebrate your courage for auditioning, for being brave, for doing all the hard work to learn those lines, and then going in front of these people. Like we went out and got a Dairy Queen cake and we celebrated her audition, and then didn't find out until the next week that she actually got the part. And I was like, okay, which was fine, but it kind of didn't go with my lesson plan as a parent. Maybe I'll be an engineer when I grow up. With your math grades, forget it. How about, so you're considering an engineering career. By trying to protect them from disappointment, we protect them from hoping, striving, dreaming, and sometimes from achieving their dreams. It might seem like the least likely thing that your kid would ever be able to do. But I mean, come on, she's like 6 years old or something. Who knows? Maybe if that's something she's really interested in, she can start learning about those things now. And remember when you said this, you really like Billy? Maybe, it's okay to have all these conversations. Dream big, that's the only way. And we've got kids that are gonna change the world. You have to let them do it. All right, let them make choices, show respect for their struggle, don't ask too many questions, don't rush to answer questions. Encourage children to use sources outside the home, and don't take away hope. And then the last chapter that I love is on praise and self-esteem. So we're going to do 3 things. Describe what you see, describe what you feel, and sum up the child's praiseworthy behavior with a word. Instead of evaluating, describe what you see or feel. So, you cleaned your room, what a good girl you are. And she's thinking, I'm not so good, I put a bunch of stuff underneath the bed. But you still can describe, well, I see a lot of work has been going on here. All the blocks are back on the shelf. Every record is in its jacket. That's coming back now. I used to say how outdated that was, but now we have records again. Every record's in its jacket. Every single marble has been picked up. It's a pleasure to walk into this room. Well, I really know how to clean up when I want to. She already knows where she put the stuff she shouldn't have, but she did the main stuff, or, this scarf you made me is beautiful, very, very nice. I wonder if he really likes it. How about describing, look at this rich red color and these thick fringes and all these rows and rows of even stitches. And it's wide too. This scarf will really keep me warm on a cold day. He likes it. Again, when they bring home work from school, you can leave it open-ended. Just describe it. Wow, look at all the colors that you used. Or, that's a really interesting texture. Can you tell me about your picture? Not, what is this? And then last, sum it up with a word. You noticed that the plants are dry and you watered them. That's what's known as taking initiative. Again, we're giving them vocabulary. These are character qualities that they have control over doing. I do this in the classroom all the time. Wow, you saw that your water pitcher ran out at snack time and you just went and filled it up all by yourself. That's called being responsible. You've been working to memorize that vocabulary list for over an hour. Now that's what I call perseverance. It's also what I call a typo, but I didn't write it. But just kind of tapping into those character qualities when they're doing it reinforces it, but it also gives them that vocabulary. You said you'd be home at 5 o'clock, and it's exactly 5. That's what I call punctuality. Those are the 4 chapters I love. The book is in the library if you would like. Does anybody have any burning questions? Yes, I do. I can write it out for you.
I would know the tune.
Oh my gosh, that's embarrassing.
You did such a good job. I'm going to sing it.
Okay, I'll be signing autographs at the end of the show. Oh my gosh. This is, all right, I will. All right. Oh my gosh. This is not how I thought I was going to start my singing career. It's after school now, take off your uniform. It's after school now, give me your papers and forms. It's after school now, spend 5 minutes in your zone. Then do your lunchbox, your homework, and put your clothes away. Then it's time to play. Things you don't expect out of parenting seminars. I threatened to bring a top hat and tap shoes, but anyway, thanks you guys for coming. I know it's a lot to come in the middle of the day, and Can I turn this off now?
Kellie just asked, can I turn this off now? You guys, we are so grateful for Kellie presenting, and I know she has so many stories that she could tell us just from her own classroom experience, but also like you just heard from her home too. But she'll be around here for a few more minutes for questions, but Kellie, we just want to give you these for presenting. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Yay. Yeah, you guys, thank you so much for coming. Feel free to grab coffee and treats too.